Hey guys, about a month ago or so, I published a video on a really cool constructed Scrabble game I created, where every single play was a bingo and the game ended in a tie at 1,010 points each. In that video, I challenged the viewers to see if anybody could construct a game also using all bingos that ended in a tie score that was even higher than mine. A ton of people submitted games with higher and higher tie scores, so eventually I made it a contest saying that once the year was over, I would make a new video featuring the top 3 submissions. And the time has now come, guys. It is 2024, and here is the promised video featuring the 3 highest tie scores that were submitted to me using games where every single play was a bingo. Major congrats to the 3 top finishers here, and major thank you to everybody who took the time to take on this challenge and submit all of their games. I really, really do appreciate all the support. And without further ado, let's jump into the top 3 games. Our bronze medalist was a game submitted to me by longtime expert Richard Spence. Richard was very tenacious with this challenge. He was one of the first to submit, and as the bar kept getting raised, he was always up to the task, and this ended up being his top submission, earning him the bronze medal. So major thanks to Richard and all of the effort he put into this challenge, and congrats to him as well on earning the 3rd spot. Now, as for this game, it's played between player 1 and player 2, and player 1 opens with a bingo of Survive for 78 points. Notably in a very aggressive spot, stopping 1 before a triple word score, so if player 2 has either a D, an R, or an S, then he will be able to play hooking Survive on the triple for quite a lot of points. And indeed, player 2 does have a D and an R, but instead of playing with a Survive hook, elects to bingo back with Redigest through the S for 62 points. Player 1 doesn't have a hook to survive, but manages to bingo with Hallower for 94 points, taking a 110-point lead. Now, player 2 here does actually have Alfredo on their rack and can bingo with Survived or Survivor for a lot of points. However, they don't spot that, instead playing Flavored through the first V and Survive, which is still not a bad play at all, scoring 110 points on a double-double and tying the score at 172 each. But the score would not stay tied for long, as player 1 with this rack, despite having a B, a W, and a Z, manages to bingo yet again. And not just any bingo. Player 1 plays Whiz Bang through the H in Hallower for an absolutely mammoth score of 374 points. Because player 1 has covered 2 triple word scores at once, 1 with the W and 1 with the G. So player 1, of course, now jumping into a massive lead. But would player 2 quit? Absolutely not. Despite having 6 vowels, player 2 still manages to bingo with the 6-vowel 8 of Aboy Do for 78 points. However, player 1 has drawn another good bingo rack and finds Coronate to the E and Survive to retake a 370-point lead. Player 2 does draw an S and a blank, and manages to find the nice play of Sentient through the T in Redigest, hooking the S onto Whizbangs for 86 points. But player 1 is still up nearly 300 and would increase that lead even further by noting the C in Coronate and not just playing Jack for like 60 plus points, but going even further than that and playing another triple-triple of Pump Jack, hooking a P onto Redigest to make Predigest, scoring a whopping 404 points with a single play, taking a lead of nearly 700 points. So at this point, it feels like the game is almost certainly over. Player 2 does manage to get a bingo down here of Sorriest for 76 points, but player 2, despite that, still seems to be in the sorriest situation possible. It's player 1's turn, and player 2 is down 612 points. So it seems like this game is completely over. However, player 2 does not give up. Player 1 lays down another bingo, this time in Throne, for 70 points. And player 2 finds themselves with this rack, D-E-F-I-O-X-Y. They noticed that if there were a T on the board, they would have the nice 8-letter word of detoxify. However, there doesn't at first appear to be a T anywhere that would be able to be played through. There was the T in Sentient, but that was unfortunately blocked by player 1's bingo of Enthroned. However, before giving up, player 2 takes a slightly closer look at the right-hand side of the board and notices the T in Sorriest. And it looks a little bit hard to play through because you have Survive and Aboy Do there. However, player 2 takes a closer look and realizes that Detoxify actually fits there, hooking the D onto Survive to make Survived, and the X onto Aboy Do to make the plural form of Aboy Do with the X at the end. So an amazing play, 392 points. But the problem is player 2 is still down 290 after that. So it seems like all player 1 has to do is now block this E on the bottom, stop player 2 from tripling again, and player 1 should win the game quite easily. So is that what player 1 does? Well, sort of. Player 1 manages to bingo, believe it or not, of all things, to an F, finding Mini Golf to the F in Detoxify for 82 points, which seems like it sort of blocks the bottom, right? It puts the M above that triple, So it's going to be pretty tough, right, for player 2 to triple there. Or is it? Player 2, with the bag now empty, player 1 only having 2 tiles left and having a Q on their rack, manages to find adequacy as a triple out bingo for 368, bringing the score to 1176, 1172, and of course, you guys guessed it, with 2 points on player 1's rack, player 2 gets double that, 4 more points, resulting in a final score of 1176 to 1176. So, this right here, once again, guys, is our 3rd place finisher submitted to me by Richard Spence, ending in a 1176 tie. Our silver medalist was a game submitted to me by Vincent, another person who was quite devoted to this challenge and kept one-upping his old scores and submitting new games each time the bar was raised. So, once again, major shout out and thank you to Vincent for all of the work he put into this challenge, and congrats to him on earning the 2nd place finish. This game was played between Vincent and none other than myself, and Vincent was first, starting off the game with a bingo of Re-Way for 86 points. I had a very strong rack here and responded with a bingo of my own, forming Interwar for 88 points, taking a 2-point lead that would of course be very short-lived, as despite having now 3 A's and 2 G's, Vincent manages to bingo with a Guttas for 66 points. It's worth mentioning on this turn that Vincent actually sacrificed a good number of points. He could have played Haggadas over here from this H, a different spelling of the same word, for 95 points instead of 66. So it would have been 29 more points because he would have reached the triple word score with the S. However, Vincent had a very specific reason for playing over here, which will become apparent in due time. I had this rack right here and managed to bingo back yet again, hitting Voidable for 106 points on a double-double through one of the A's in Haggadas. Vincent, however, drew another very nice rack and managed to bingo right back with Gasoline for 70 points. I had this rack right here, ADLORTU, and at first I was about to play the bingo of Adulator from the 3rd A in the Guttas right here, but then I noticed something pretty cool. I could actually play it, believe it or not, from the 1st A in the Guttas, even though it looks very difficult with Gasoline right there, because it makes 7 valid 2-letter words, and that's exactly what I did, scoring 91 points on this turn. However, this turned out to be a huge mistake, because with this rack right here, despite having a Q, an F, and a Y, Vincent used the RE I just opened in the bottom line, tripling with a 9-letter bingo of Frequency, putting the Q on the double letter and earning 374 points in a single turn, taking a lead of over 300 points. So I was obviously quite flustered here, but I did manage to bingo back with oneself for 79 points, putting an F in the triple line. The F is not the easiest tile to play through, let alone bingo through, but as we'll see, it would definitely become relevant later. Vincent here had a bunch of 1-point tiles, but managed to bingo yet again, this time with Overwrite, a disconnected 9, covering 2 double word scores for 110 points, further extending his lead. However, this right here, guys, is where Vincent's earlier play of Haggadas that I mentioned sacrificed a bunch of points instead of starting with the H and playing Haggadas becomes very relevant. Vincent played Haggadas where he did because he was hoping to draw the 2nd H and eventually front hook his play to make Haggadas with 2 H's and play something down the A column for a huge number of points. However, it turns out I was the one who got the 2nd H, and I was also aware of this hook. And not only was I aware of it, I capitalized big time here, finding a triple of Mitzvoth through the I in Interwar, hooking the H to make Haggadas for a massive 419 points, all of a sudden turning the tables and retaking the lead by 77 points. However, Vincent was not to be outdone. He draws the S in the blank and would bingo back with Anisole and Overwrites, retaking the lead by a narrow margin of 3 points. I drew the other blank here and managed to find a nice 5-way overlap of Robinia for 95 points above oneself, retaking the lead once again. However, that lead would be extremely short-lived, as Vincent here, despite having 6 clunky consonants and just a single vowel of the U, manages to triple with a very familiar word from last game, Pump Jack, also in a very familiar spot, on the top row, starting in the middle and going to the right-hand side of the board, on a triple, hooking of P onto the beginning of a word, Re-Way becomes Pre-Way, and Vincent gets 416 points, taking now a 324-point lead and also emptying the bag. He now only has 2 tiles left, just an A and a U, and I am stuck with an X and a Y, so it seems like it's going to be very difficult for me to do anything productive, let alone come back from a 300-plus point deficit. However, before giving up, I happened to notice this F that I opened earlier with oneself in the triple line. And I see another word that's probably very familiar to us from the first game we looked at, Detoxify, which plays as a triple out bingo for 320 points. And you guys guessed it, I cut the deficit to 4. I get 4 bonus points from Vincent's 2 unplayed tiles, and the game ends in a 12:02 to 12:02 tie. So pretty epic game and pretty epic finish there. Huge congrats to Vincent on being the first submitter to crack the elusive 1200 barrier. The 1100 barrier was cracked very quickly by a number of submitters, and the first thing I wondered was whether 1200 would ever be cracked, and Vincent was the first to do that. So once again, major thank you to Vincent for all the work he put in, and congrats to him on breaking the 1200 barrier for the first time and ultimately earning second place in this contest. We now come, guys, to our gold medalist, the highest scoring tie game with all bingos that was submitted to me as part of this challenge. And it comes to me from my longtime viewer Amaranth, so major shout out and thank you to Amaranth for all of his support of my channel, as well as for all of the effort I know he devoted to this challenge. On this game, he collaborated with his friend lovemathboy, who's also his opponent, and Amaranth was first and started off the game with a bingo of lighted for 78 points. It's worth noting that lighted falls 1 square below the top triple word score, so there are several letters that can go in front of lighted to make an 8-letter word, and we'll want to watch out for that spot throughout the rest of this game. lovemathboy drew a blank to start off the game and bingoed right back with creative for 67 points. Amaranth drew a pretty difficult rack here. He's got 5 vowels as well as the B. However, he was not deterred, actually bingoing through a 6th vowel on the board, finding aboy toe for 76 points from the A in creative. lovemathboy drew 3 more A's, but managed to bingo yet again, finding the nice play of marinara through the R in creative for 74 points, cutting the deficit to 13. Amaranth drew yet another rack that seems kind of clunky at first, 2 sets of duplicates, 2 I's and 2 N's, but once again he finds a bingo playing thionine on a double-double for 94 points. lovemathboy, with another very nice draw, pulling the second blank out of the bag, would find a 7-letter bingo of tone arm for 70 points, keeping himself in the game and opening yet another triple line on the right-hand side of the board. Amaranth drew pretty well here, pulling an S and several E's. He doesn't have a good play through the M in tone arm, but he does find a 102-point double-double of busheler through the H in lighted, retaking a lead of over 100 points. lovemathboy's got a pretty clunky rack here, a G, 2 O's, and a V. It certainly does not seem at first that there would be a bingo, however, there is, and he found it. He plays grooviest through a disconnected R in busheler and an E in tone arm for a whopping 130 points. It's so many points because the G and the T both cover double word scores, so it's a double-double as well as hooking the S on thionines to get additional points, so 130 points brings lovemathboy to within 9. However, Amaranth with another extremely nice draw here. All great bingo tiles. There are lots of bingos available here, but he goes with the most stylish one, playing Sterain with 6 overlaps at once, scoring 92 points, the most notable of which is putting an E in front of thionines to make ethionines. However, another bingo comes down on this turn with iodized, once again making a huge number of overlaps for lovemathboy, hooking bushelers as well as the 3 two-letter words of G, I, O, E, and O, D. So the game is still very tight. Amaranth holding on to a very, very small lead of only 5 points. And at this point, you guys might be wondering, okay, I know this game scores over 1,200 points. After all, this is the highest scoring submission, and the last game scored over 1,200. There are only 16 tiles left in the bag, as you can see. So the game is already almost over. And both players have a decent number of points. They both have over 400, but they are very, very far away from 1,200 points, and we only have a couple of turns left. So how on earth are these players going to get to 1,200 points? Well, it starts right now. With this rack, despite having an F, a W, and an X, and only a single vowel, Amaranth scores a massive 346 points with Flex Wing through the E in Sterain, hooking that X onto aboy toe to make aboy toe with the plural form. Something very similar to what we saw in an earlier game where aboy do with a D instead of a T was hooked with an X. So Amaranth takes a massive lead. However, here, lovemathboy triples with a word that's very familiar to us by now, Pump Jack for 365. In a very different spot than we're used to seeing, though. In the past 2 games, Pump Jack has been played on the top of the board. Here it is played on the right-hand side of the board. So lovemathboy now takes a lead for what I believe is the first time of the game. However, it would be extremely short-lived as Amaranth once again scores a mammoth number of points, this time hitting frowsily. Remember when I mentioned lighted at the beginning of the game and how it took a bunch of tiles in the front? Well, here we go, guys. F comes in front of lighted to make flighted for a 8-letter word hook, and frowsily comes down for 422 points on a triple, emptying the bag, leaving Amaranth with just an E and an O on his rack, and leaving his score at 1,210 points. lovemathboy is down 408 points and needs a massive play here if he wants any chance of coming back, and that's exactly what he gets, finding the absolutely insane adequacy through the C in creative, making 7 two-tile overlaps. AMDAERQIUNAAYA. All valid two-letter words, a total of 404 points, bringing his score to 1206, and of course he gets 4 extra points from Amaranth's rack, bringing the final, guys, to 1210 to 1210. This is the highest scoring tie game, once again, with no bingos that was submitted to me. And what I think is really, really cool about this, well, several things, but the first thing that I thought was really cool was that this is exactly 200 points higher than my initial game I went over in the video, which was a 10-10 to 10-10 tie. So pretty cool coincidence there. And also just the fact that all of the triple triples came in at the very end I thought was really cool. Once again, if we go just a couple of turns back in this game, the score was 442 to 437. It was really, really close and still relatively normal scoring as far as a Scrabble game goes. But then, boom, within a couple of turns, we had 1210 to 1210. So just a truly, truly epic game. Major congratulations and shout out once again to Amaranth as well as his friend lovemathboy for sending me this game. Really, really do appreciate all of the time that they put into this challenge, and really just appreciate all of the support of that video and all of this challenge that everybody, the 3 folks who were featured here, as well as everybody else who sent me games put in. Really, really appreciate it, and thank you so much for all of the work and all the effort, and I'll try to come up with another fun challenge for you guys soon, because I know this one was super popular. But in the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and yeah, thanks again for all the support, and I'll see you soon for the next one. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.